house in Blackpine Hollow. Before we start, if you're the type of person who checks the closet door twice before falling asleep, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, ring that bell, and let's get into it. Because tonight's story is about a house that doesn't just haunt you, it borrows you. It takes you into your own dreams and doesn't give you back the same person. Mandy and Ethan Carter had one dream for years, a little house in the mountains, somewhere quiet, somewhere the Wi-Fi was decent enough to keep their online business running and nothing else mattered. They found it in a town most GPS apps didn't even bother naming properly, Blackpine Hollow, tucked into the Colorado high country, surrounded by thick pine forest and wildflowers that seemed almost too perfect for how isolated the place felt. The house itself was yellow, big, and beautiful in the afternoon light. Mandy fell in love with it the second the realtor's photos hit her inbox. But the moment she actually pushed open the front door, something in her stomach dropped. A smell rolled out to meet them. Not just old house mustiness, but something thicker, something that lingered in your throat. "It's been closed up for years," Ethan said, waving a hand in front of his face. "That's all this is." They told themselves that. They lit candles, got the power running, scrubbed the place down, and unpacked their boxes into a home that, even at 3 in the afternoon, seemed to hold on to shadows in the corners that daylight couldn't quite reach. That first night, Mandy started dinner. She pulled fresh vegetables from the grocery bag, vegetables that had looked perfectly fine on the shelf, and sliced into them to find the insides completely rotted, black, writhing with tiny insects. She dropped the knife and stepped back, stomach turning. They skipped dinner, toast and butter, and straight to bed, too exhausted to think much of it. At 4:30 in the morning, Mandy woke up to an empty bed. She found Ethan outside in the backyard, shovel in hand, digging a deep hole in the dirt under a moon that barely lit anything. There was a smile on his face that didn't belong there, calm, distant, wrong. "Ethan," he blinked like he was surfacing from underwater. He had no memory of getting out of bed, let alone walking outside and digging. Mandy chalked it up to a stress dream, some kind of sleepwalking episode brought on by the move. The rest of the day passed normally enough. They laughed, unpacked more boxes, told each other this was still the right decision. Then the second night came, and everything changed. Mandy woke to a noise from downstairs, a heavy dragging sound, like someone was shoving a chair back and forth across the floor over and over. She crept down the stairs, following the sound to a spot beneath the staircase she hadn't noticed before, a hidden door. Behind it, a set of steps leading down into a basement room. She pushed it open and found a space packed with dried, rotted herbs hanging from the ceiling, and in the middle of it, sitting in an old rocking chair, was Ethan, staring into a black bottle, completely still except for the slow creak of the chair. By the light of a lantern hanging on the wall, Mandy saw something else. Standing directly behind Ethan was a shape, tall, hollow-eyed, with long dark hair hanging past its shoulders, and a stillness to it that made the air feel thinner. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice shaking. The chair stopped. Ethan's head snapped upright with a crack that shouldn't have come from a human neck. His eyes had no pupils, just white, and full of something that hated her. Then the shape behind him surged forward, faster than anything should move, and closed its hands around Mandy's throat. She felt her air cut off, the room tilting sideways, and then nothing. In the blackness, Mandy dreamed. She stood in the backyard, in the exact spot where Ethan had been digging, except now it was her hands tearing into the dirt. Listen to the rain hammer the roof, and watch the empty streets of Hollow Creek through the windshield, and thought about what a strange place this was. Then he heard the bells. Skull, not church bells, not wind chimes. Something smaller, something ankle height. The kind of sound that comes from decorative bells sewn onto the hem of a dress. Rhythmic, deliberate, moving through the rain. Daniel rolled down his window slightly and looked out. The street was empty. The bells got louder. Then a voice, low, wrong, coming from directly behind his car. Time to go. The laughter that followed was not human. Daniel didn't remember making the decision to get out of the car.
He just found himself standing in the rain with the door hanging open and something pulling him backward by his collar, and the last thing anyone in Hollow Creek heard was his voice cutting off mid-scream, face screaming in fear. By morning, the only evidence that Daniel Webb had ever been in Hollow Creek was his rental car, still parked on Route 9, driver's door open, interior soaked through, with deep drag marks in the mud leading away from it toward the old Hargrove ruins at the edge of town. His body was never found. Skull. The Hargrove ruins had been the central feature of every Hollow Creek nightmare for 30 years. They sat at the far end of Creek Road, the collapsed remains of what had once been the grandest house in 3 counties, burned to the foundation in 1994 under circumstances that the official report called undetermined, and that every Hollow Creek resident called something else entirely. Don't go near the ruins. Every parent in Hollow Creek told every child from the time they were old enough to understand the words. Don't go near the ruins. Don't go near them in the day. Never go near them at night. Never go near them in the rain, anxious faced with sweat. The town council, led by Mayor Gerald Stanton, who had held the position for 22 years, reinforced this with official policy. No trespassing signs. A chain-link fence.
Trying to figure out where the dream ended and the Rayall house began. Unable to sit still, she got up and went downstairs. And there it was, the same hidden door under the staircase, exactly where she'd seen it before. She opened it and stepped into the same basement room from her nightmare. Same dead herbs hanging from the beams. Same rocking chair. A thick layer of dust over everything, and a darkness that seemed to swallow the lantern light before it could spread. She was still standing there, taking it in, when a crash came from upstairs, from their bedroom. She ran up to find Ethan floating above the bed, several feet off the mattress, his body twisting like he was fighting against ropes only he could feel. Mandy screamed his name. He thrashed harder, like the sound of his name was the one thing anchoring him to his own body. She grabbed her phone and started calling. Anyone, everyone, but not a single person in that town picked up. Ethan's body went rigid midair, then dropped to the floor like a puppet with its strings cut. Mandy rushed to his side and found the woman lying there instead of him. The same pale, hollow-eyed figure from her dreams, except now her face carried something feral, something starving. She reached up and closed her hands around Mandy's throat one more time, and this time the darkness didn't let go so easily. The next morning belonged to Ethan alone. He woke up to find Mandy still in bed, peacefully asleep, except hours passed, and she didn't stir. He splashed water on her face. Nothing. He was starting to panic when her whole body seized, limbs locking, back arching. A seizure. He got her in the car and drove to the nearest clinic faster than that mountain road had probably ever been driven. The doctors ran every test they had. Everything came back normal, except her heart rate, which wouldn't stop racing, wildly out of rhythm with a body that otherwise showed no signs of distress. She wouldn't open her eyes, wouldn't speak, wouldn't wake. Ethan drove her 2 hours to the nearest real hospital, where after a full day of scans and specialists, he finally got the word no one wants to hear. Mandy was in a coma. He sat in that hospital hallway for hours trying to make sense of how a normal week had turned into this. Eventually, hollowed out and running on nothing, he drove back to Blackpine Hollow to grab a change of clothes. An old man was sitting on the porch steps of the yellow house when he pulled up. Ethan didn't recognize him, didn't remember seeing him anywhere in town before. The old man looked at him with tired, knowing eyes and told him something that made the blood drain straight out of Ethan's face. The house was cursed, he said. Something lived in it, something that had lived in it for longer than anyone in town cared to talk about. A thing that pulled people into their own dreams and fed on what it found there, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to wake up to. He said the ground under that house was full of the people who'd tried to make it a home before them. Get out, the old man said, before it finishes with her. Then he stood, turned toward the tree line, and walked into the woods. Ethan called after him, and watched the old man simply dissolve into the shadows between the pines, gone, like he'd never been there at all. Ethan didn't wait for an explanation that made sense. He packed everything they owned into the car that same afternoon, left the keys on the kitchen counter, and never went back. He found a local pastor willing to say a prayer over Mandy that night, more out of desperation than faith. 3 days later, sitting in a hospital chair he'd basically lived in, he watched Mandy's eyes open on their own. She woke up crying, sobbing, actually, in a way that scared the nurses before it made sense to anyone. Between breaths, she told Ethan everything. The dream house, the basement, the woman's hands around her throat over and over, and worst of all, alone she'd felt the entire time, like she'd been calling out into a place that had no doors. Ethan held her and thanked God she was back. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he thanked the old man too, the one who'd shown up out of nowhere and vanished into the trees. He couldn't shake the feeling that the man hadn't been entirely alive himself. Maybe just another soul the house had taken, still wandering, still trying to warn the next people through the door. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If you ever found yourself trapped in a house like that, inside your own dreams, unable to tell what's real, what would you do? Do yourselves a favor. Stay away from houses that feel wrong the second you walk in. And if you like this one, subscribe and turn on notifications, because next week, we've got another story waiting for you. Sleep tight, or don't.